What's up, guys? So I'm holding my GoPro by hand. It's gonna be a little shaky. The little adapter that screws to the bottom of the GoPro and goes in the tripod, that little piece of plastic broke. I figured it was only a matter of time. It didn't look like it was super well made. Finally broke out, so I'm gonna make a new one. Hang out for a minute, check this project out. This is the piece I need to make. It's not a very well made piece of plastic. You can see it kind of split there on the seam, if you can see the seam there. It does have those 3 posts. It's going to make it a interesting piece to make. And the way it screws into the bottom of the GoPro case. So this is threaded. That threads onto this, which sits on the tripod. And this is a universal thread for any camera that's on the market. So you can put any camera on this tripod. It's the way most tripods are made, with this piece that clips into it and screws to any camera on the market. This little thing goes through and holds the whole thing together with the GoPro. So that is going to stay the same. If I can get it out of there. That threaded piece on the bottom happens to be the same thread as this bolt. So then I match this up with a nut. So I have something, because that's brass right there. I can't weld that piece of brass to a piece of steel with the welders I have right now. It would probably warp and melt away before I got it on there, even if I had a good gas welder that was small enough tip. I've got this washer for the base, this nut that'll screw in to this. We don't need this. This is just to check out the thread pitch. These 2 pieces of flat strap, which are the same thickness as these little tabs, the spacing. And even the pieces of plastic on the bottom of the GoPro case are the same thickness as these. So we'll make a couple tabs, 3 tabs out of this piece of metal, maybe 2 out of that, and a center one to space it out of this piece right here. Got to cut some metal up real quick. I'll be right back. So I switched here to my iPhone so I can videotape what the case looks like and the stand and how I'm working it. With a GoPro going, I couldn't videotape the case. So this is the stand that's broken. That's where it goes in the GoPro. And all these little tabs are the same thickness. This is the big screw that goes through and holds it all together, tightens it up. This is the washer that I'm going to use as a base. That piece right there is going to be this washer. I used a step drill right here to make that little step in it so that this nut will fit in there just like that. Countersunk a little bit, but the bolt coming out of the top of that won't come all the way through the nut on this. So there's plenty of space. So I'm going to weld that piece up, and then we'll start working on the little tabs on top of this and the spacing. So there's that piece right there, the first piece, the base with the nut welded to it for the threads. The next thing we need to do is make the top pieces. And with these top pieces, with any mount like this, the outside, being as it goes on the outside of the camera, the outside pieces, the thickness doesn't matter. But this inside one, it has to be the same thickness as the distance between those two. Otherwise it'll collapse those two when you clamp it together. This piece of flat strap steel happens to be the same thickness. So I'm going to make it all three out of the same thickness as the actual clamp. So the middle one's a little bit shorter than the outside ones, and it's going to be a little bit shorter than this even, because it's going to sit on top of this nut. What I need to do is weld these three pieces together, stack them up, and weld them together, all lined up, and drill a hole where I need the hole to be. And then I'll start grinding the shape of this piece when they're still welded together. I'll position the welds on a part that I'm going to grind off later, so it'll be easy to take apart. And the shape of these is slightly sloped forward for the angle of the camera, so you can have more variable angle on the camera. And that's probably the same shape that I'll try and use. So first things first is to line all these up, weld them all together nice and straight, and drill that hole. So there's the three pieces of metal. I tack weld them together. I drilled a hole, 2 tack welds, holes offset because that's offset. And I used my blue Sharpie hack, covered it in blue Sharpie, and used a scribe to draw some lines on there so I know when to stop grinding. After that, I'll try not to grind those welds off as long as I can. Grind as much around them as I can, and then cut them off. So all three pieces will fall apart after that. That middle piece will have to be a little bit shorter. It's not too much shorter than the outside pieces right now, but it's got a pretty good rise from that nut I welded in there. So I'll have to make it a little bit shorter so they all line up later. Alright, so there's the original piece, the shape of it. This little piece I've been grinding on. I left the 2 welds till the very end, so it keeps all three of those pieces nice and tight, nice together. So I'll cut those pieces off, these 2 welds off here, and I'll clean the pieces up and shorten up that center piece. Start getting them fit on top of this. Hopefully that'll do it. Alright, so I've got these 3 pieces. I made a couple shims to space the proper spacing, the thicknesses of these 2 pieces right here. So when I weld it all, it's the right spacing apart. I don't have to fight putting anything together. And I've got it all bolted together right now. The center piece is slightly shorter than the outside pieces, and that's so it fits on this. I also notched that center bolt, that center nut that I welded on there. I put a notch on each side of that so that the outside tabs will slide over and the center tab will sit almost right on top. So now what I have to do is position that on there where I want it. And weld it. We'll get that done and we'll be right back. So got it all welded up now. Welded the sides, the back, the front. I won't show you that weld because it's ugly. I don't know if you've watched any of my other videos on welding, but when you weld something like this together, you want to keep it clamped in place and the spacers in until it's cold, because as a weld cools, it shrinks, and since you're just welding on the outside, it'd have a tendency to pull this outer ones out that way a little bit and create the gap in between a lot bigger. especially when you're working with smaller tolerances like this. You don't want that to happen. So make your spacers the correct size and keep it clamped up as it's cooling, and you'll have a better product in the end. So I'm going to go clean these welds up, grind them down real nice, make it look a little nicer. And the only other thing I have to do is get this nut welded on this outside piece. It's the same thread as this little bolt contraption that GoPro come up with. So I'll weld that nut on there, keep it in place so you're not fiddling around with too many things when you're trying to disconnect and reconnect. So I'll clean this up and tack weld that nut on there and show you the finished product. Alright, there they are together. It's pretty close for a replica. You can see where these two posts kind of melted. I was mocking it up and one of the pieces of metal is still a little too warm. So it does look like those are thinner than those, but they were all the same thickness. And the GoPro, line this up. Yeah, hard to do one-handed, but sits right in there. Just gotta line up the hole and put a little bolt through. So, hope you liked the video. A little close up of it right there. That's welded on that side, so you don't have to mess with a wrench. And put a little paint on it. That'll be done. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're not a subscriber, be sure and hit that subscribe button. I do need 1,000 subscribers by February 20th, I believe, or my channel doesn't get monetized. It's not a big deal, not the end of the world. This channel doesn't make a ton of money, but at some point I would like to get a little bit of cash back from the time and investment I put in. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you like the video, hit that like button. Share the video with your friends. Most of all, wear your safety equipment and go out and make something.